Aloha and welcome to week 4. By now, you should have read all the required pages for the smartphone. If you haven't done so yet, please take this week to finish all the required reading. In this lecture, I'm going to go over some key points from this textbook. Let's get started. Here are the chapter topics at a glance from the book. In the following slides, I will cover some highlights from each chapter and provide a brief discussion. I hope you find these highlights helpful as you progress in your project work. Chapter 1 provides a great overview of the early cell and mobile products that led to the first smartphone. In the 90s, advancements in microprocessors, experimentation with touch-sensitive glass, and the use of PCM-CIA cards to expand computer memory and phone functionalities all contributed to the smartphone evolution. However, those technical triumphs did not come without its challenges. On this slide, I'm highlighting a few of the challenges facing the mobile industry during that time. Operating systems, app development, and phone capabilities challenged mobile phone makers at that time. Additionally, smartphone makers had to work with carriers to create a phone with features they wanted to bring to market. Coupling an already difficult process of building a phone with the demands of the carriers proved to be a difficult process during the early years of the industry. As many of you know, iPhones debuted in 2007, arguably changing the smartphone industry. During this pivotal time in mobile history, access to Wi-Fi and the global movement towards mobile devices for personal use influenced the whopping sales figures. Furthermore, the opening of Apple's App Store to cultivate usership and iPhone sales led to its success. However, Google and Samsung were eager to become major players in this industry. Unfortunately, the rise of the iPhone led to the demise of BlackBerry. The previous chapters cover the fierce competition between smartphone makers. However, in Chapter 3, the author covers the less conspicuous competition found in the app ecosystem. This ecosystem, which consisted of the smartphone makers and companies, app developers, and users, ultimately connected to mobile sales. In addition to the actual device, great apps retained and attracted users. Additionally, an app war broke out between App and Google over the Google Maps app. Apple didn't like the fact that iPhone users preferred Google's Map app over their own. What was particularly upsetting for Apple was that iPhone user data was being obtained via the Google Maps app, which ultimately puts more money into Google's pocket. During this time, Samsung made a mark in the industry by having nearly 70 different mobile devices in the global market. And lastly, by 2013, app stores became flooded with apps and discoverability and profitability peaked. In Chapter 4, Woik discusses the different approaches that companies implement in the smartphone design process. On one end of the spectrum, Sony follows a methodical approach that involves researching and following megatrends, studying their user needs and wants, as well as looking towards other industries for design inspiration. Apple uses a very high level and secretive approach with a small and select group of designers who discuss, compare, and quickly prototype designs, ultimately leaving the final design decisions to very high-level executives. Is one approach better than the other? What do you think? From the design process, the chapter shifts into phone assemblage and provides a bleak narrative of the conflict minerals, mainly highly prized and precious metals that are essential elements found in smartphones. It's good to be aware of the political and socio-economic issues linked to these products we buy. Apple and other phone makers are slowly leading the charge to change this part of their industry. We learned in this chapter that smartphones are one of the largest e-waste contributors worldwide. Besides the sheer volume of phones distributed globally, market forces and the constant inundation of the latest and greatest models add to this mounting problem. Besides educating consumers, activists concerned about e waste have turned to political measures to curb this problem. They introduced a bill called the Responsible Electronics Recycling Act to regulate e waste. However, another economic opportunity emerged for companies, like Gazelle, that buy and resell previously owned mobile products globally. What excites me about this chapter are the unintended consequences of this industry. The amazing coupling of smartphones and mobile apps have changed industries across the world. In this chapter, Woik shares the impact two apps had on the medical field and patient care via apps like OSCAN and StethoCloud. These apps allow patients a chance for medical care that would otherwise be too costly or way out of their reach. It's fair to say that the mobile industry is fast paced and innovative. Oftentimes, aspects of the industry are overlooked, as we've discovered in the chapters discussing conflict minerals, factory workers and their conditions, as well as the escalation of e waste. Adding to that challenge has become user privacy. Users may not know to the extent of the invasion of privacy that may be occurring while using smartphones or mobile apps. As users, it would be prudent to be aware of permissions while using certain apps or while using free Wi Fi, because you may not be aware of what information is being extracted from your phone. Looking towards the future. The smartphone, as you and I know it, has been around now for a little over a decade. And as you can see, this industry is determined to stay at the top. In this chapter, the author touches upon the many other mobile products that in some way have been shaped and influenced by this industry. Some of the products discussed in this chapter have clearly cornered a market and have been successful. Take the time to explore some of the products she mentions in the chapter and think about where you think the future is going. On another note, as we make our own inferences about the future of the mobile world, issues around user privacy, fair labor practices, conflict minerals, and impacts to the environment will continue to challenge this industry. So it would be prudent for us to think about it as we look towards the future. If you have any questions regarding the smartphone textbook or project number 1, please feel free to email me. Have a great week. Aloha.